This time on Ask Rad Rat After Dark Edition, we're talking about if skateboards are polluting the earth and lots of other questions. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video by After Dark Edition. I just mean it's literally after dark. I am recording really late today just because I've been busy. But anyway, yeah, it feels a lot different. I usually do this around noon and it's like nighttime. But anyway, I've got a few questions for you. They're all skateboarding related this time. First one is from Lotion Beam, who says, are physical copies available of your DVD? With an exclamation point at the end. No, if you didn't see it, I made a video where, check it out here, where I play an old DVD that me and my friend Tony made and just did like a commentary track for it, essentially. And that was a lot of fun. I would love for more people to be able to watch the video as it was, but it's all copyrighted music, so technically it's illegal for me to sell it. That's just kind of how it is. That would be a cool thing for me to put in the store and actually get some copies made that look professional, stuff like that. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to make that. I will put up a video where I watch my next one, Los Dos Bandidos. I actually recorded the voiceover part a while ago, but it's just been on the back burner for a while. You'll see that soon. You'll get to experience both, but you're just not gonna get the full thing. I'm sorry. That's just, laws and stuff. Next question is from Eric. Is there a biological/neurological limit to consistency? Take Shane O'Neill, for example, my favorite skater. Not only will he never bail a straight kickflip on flat, he will practically never do a sketchy one. For me, that seems to be impossible. I, for example, easily land more than 95% of kickflip tries, but only a couple percent of them reflect the peak level of my kickflip abilities. It really seems like there's a point where further improvement is limited by your muscle memory. I've been doing kickflips for almost 10 years now, so I do think there comes a point where simple repetition of a move will not increase the corresponding muscle memory any further. I do think at some point, just raw athletic ability becomes a factor. I think that's just kind of how it is. No matter how good I'll ever get, I'm not going to be perfect at 360 flips like Shane O'Neill. I can do them relatively consistently. I've been doing them for years. If you do it in a game of skate, there's a good chance I'll land it, but I'm just never going to be perfect at it. And I do think there is a limit, but I don't think it works the exact way you're thinking of. I think you get a level of being able to adapt, like in the air. So if you watch Shane O'Neill do 100 tray flips in a row, and you actually watch them all frame by frame, I don't think that they all are all exactly the same. I think one's gonna flip a little bit quicker, one's gonna spin a little bit quicker, one's gonna be a little bit higher, one's gonna be a little bit lower. And the trick is to be able to adapt. So the only thing that I'm not that good at, but the only thing I'm, in that ballpark for is just a regular kickflip. Which is funny, if you watched my tricks and tribulations for the kickflip, backfoot underflip that I did, which is right there, I tried to warm up and I bailed 3 kickflips in a row. It was stationary because whatever, you can watch the video if you want to see all that. So it was a little bit different. But for me, when I do a kickflip now, they're not necessarily always great, right? I can do one, and if it flips extra fast this time, my foot's gonna be there and it'll catch it. If it flips extra slow, I can hold my feet back and wait for it and still land it. I can land it, no matter what, but it's just not always gonna be great. So I could theoretically practice a lot and get better and better and better. And so my worst kickflip and my best kickflip are still pretty close. But I don't think you can just be 100% at that stuff. There's way too much going on from your body and like the angle of the ground you're on and the friction of the wheels on the surface and like all that kind of stuff. There's people who can do a 360 flip no matter what. You can hand them your board, it's a different size and they're used to and all that stuff, and they can still do one. But I think there's a limit, and some people are just naturally gifted. I mean, I could potentially, if I worked really hard, get 100% at 360 flips, but they're never going to be great ones. They're never going to be those perfect nice ones where you catch it out here and the board's still coming around and you grab it. I just don't think I've got that ability, and that's just how it is. So Yeah, there are limits. I don't think I understand them that well. I don't know how people like him get that good. I definitely don't have that experience. The only thing that I'm sort of unnaturally good at, the one thing in all of skateboarding, is landing things back to rail, like some kind of freestyle flip trick that I can land back to rail. I can do that pretty well. And I can't explain how I do it. I can tell you how, but I don't know if it's actually what happens. Like some things you just feel. Tony Hawk had a trick tip recently that he just put out. It was for some web magazine or something. I don't remember. But it was for a front side heel flip on flat. So the way that he describes it is nothing like how he does it. He says that you have your back foot on the corner of the tail, like the heel side of the tail, and your front foot up at the front. And when you pop it, the board starts to flip like a kickflip because you're popping the side of the tail, and you spin about halfway and then you start to flip. And that's how he sees it in his head. That's how he describes it. Watch him do it. The board doesn't flip like a kickflip at all, and he flips it immediately. I'm not saying he's lying. I'm saying like that's what he visualizes in his head. That's what he's thinking about. That's what his weight is doing, but you don't see it. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful at all, but there's a lot that it's just way too complicated for anyone to really understand 100%. Okay, next question is from Jurgen, who says, I've got another question. Can you explain the physics behind having to flick less when you do a 360 flip compared to a regular kickflip? I don't really get it. Since the board still has to do the same flip motion, how come to only barely flip when doing tray flips, while when kickflipping you gotta really lay that flick in? Greetings from Germany. Yeah, this is probably the hardest thing about 360 flips to me. When I bail them, it's usually because it grabs my front foot and it flips too much and kind of flies out forward. Like it grabs my foot too hard when I flick it, and it goes that way and flips extra. And the reason why is because if your front foot does nothing and you're popping the board and spinning it, your foot's kind of gonna glance off as it is. So if you did nothing, if you just kind of had your foot in the way and did a 360 pop shove it, and your foot was just in kickflip position but you didn't move it, you'd probably flip the board a little bit. The board starts to flip and it goes this way, right? So it's gonna kind of glance off a little bit. So if you just put a little bit of effort into it, it should work. But that's just a technique thing. You can do it that way, depending on how you pop it. If you do the trick really flat, you will have to flip more. If you pop it more like an end over end, more of a vertical pop, then it passes through your foot more, it rotates around your foot more, and you can just do a little bit of just glance off a little bit and to add that extra flip. So there's a lot to be said about that. When I was learning how to do a 3D, I was trying to make like a cartoon, like a 3D skateboard animation, and one thing I realized when I tried to make a 360 flip in 3D was how complicated it really is. It's not just spinning 360 this way and 360 this way. There's the pop motion too, and you don't catch it and flatten it out. Like a kickflip, you pop it, and as you flip it, you flatten it out. And so it's only doing this. 360 flip, it's spinning back some, it's spinning, like a shove it some, it's spinning like a kickflip some, and none of those is 360. They're all kind of interrelated, like a really 90s style Chad Muska end over end hard flip. If you were to animate that in 3D and look at the axis, like the flip axis of how much the board flipped, it's like half, if that. It might even be less. Like it's going like scooping end over end and just flipping a little bit. So the way your 360 flip works is going to be different. If you pop it more, you don't have to flip it as much because the pop and the spin kind of make up for it. It's weird. There's a lot of weird stuff with the 360 flip, but for the most part, I think kind of popping and spinning it past your foot is really what you're noticing. Okay, next question is from Chris Meister, who says, it really bugs me that skateboarding is kind of a wasteful sport. It almost seems to be inherent that decks, trucks, other hardware, but also shoes, pants, and wax are destroyed in the process. The other thing is nonsense channels or formats like Braille with their we soaked a deck in, insert some weird everyday use liquid, what's going to happen? Where they destroy stuff for the lols. I realized that this really isn't a question, but maybe you could give your 2 cents to the topic, gather some examples and suggestions on how to react to this tendency, like buying and supporting the development of new skateboard technology like Lithe, Cape, Cirrus, etc., or reevaluating the individual consumption strategy. In any case, keep up the good work and stay healthy and safe/sane. Yeah, this is something I think about a lot because I used to live by a landfill, and it was like, okay, this was in Michigan. We've got super mild hills. That's it. There was a mountain, like a snowboarding mountain that I had been to once. I didn't go snowboard. I just happened to be near it and kind of drove by it. And the snowboard mountain, you couldn't even tell it was a mountain until you got up real close to it. Like, oh wait, that is a little bit higher. Oh, is that the roof of a house or is that the top of a mountain? Like, that's how flat it is in Michigan. And I live by this landfill, and it's just this enormous thing, you know, just stuffed with all of your garbage. And I think about, like, this isn't gonna go anywhere. Some of it's gonna rot, you know, but for the most part, I read a interesting thing. They're trying to sell toothpaste. They make toothpaste now. It's like these little tablets, and they come in a paper sleeve. And so the little tablets, you put it in your mouth and you start to brush, and it'll dissolve and like turn into toothpaste. And the reason they do that is because they say that the very first plastic toothpaste tube still exists. Like it looks exactly like it did when it was thrown out. They're not gonna go away. They're just adding up and adding up and adding up. And I do think about that from time to time, like, where is stuff gonna go after a while? And are we gonna run out of stuff? That's something else I think about sometimes. Like, we mine stuff up, use it, throw it away. Eventually the mines are gonna run dry. Where's the rest of the whatever? For me, I was thinking about, like, if you wear a gold ring, for example, you like rub it on the counter or something like that, the gold is slowly going away and they're gonna run out of it. If you are looking forward like 100,000 years, eventually there's gonna be none because it's all gonna be wiped away or rubbed off, and you know, in tiny little bits here and there all across the world. So like, what do you do with a skateboard? If your bearings seize up, they're garbage, so you throw them away. But then who's gonna eventually clean that up? If it's gonna take 1,000 years and somebody's job is gonna be to pick through all the garbage and find the stuff you can use, like, this is stuff I do think about. So I am with you on that. And I try my best to not be wasteful on purpose. I'm not great at, I recycle, but I'm not like, I'm not a great example of what you should do, but it is something that I do keep in mind sometimes. So I looked into how to recycle a skateboard because my method is just let them pile up. That's what I do. I have thrown away broken skateboards, but like one that's used up and I wanted to try something new. Sometimes for the channel, you know, I want to review something and I will just keep the old one. You know, some of those boards are fine. The one on the right, I haven't skated yet. That one's next after what I've got set up right now. But so what do you do? And I looked it up and there were a few different things that I found. First one was Boards for Bros. This started in Tampa, like the skate park of Tampa area. And they basically like refurbish your old stuff and give it to kids so they can skate. So if you have old used boards that aren't broken, you could donate it to them. I know they take donations. I don't know if it's only local, if you can mail it to them. If you have to send stuff through the mail, and then there's the emissions of the trucks that drove it there, you know, at some point you're not doing as much good, but that is an option. There may be something by you. You can give away a board to a kid at a skate park. Like, that would be the ideal. There was also brands like Shape 3, which is Dave Baczynski's brand where they make art out of old skateboard decks. If you haven't seen him, you've seen this stuff before. You can like put the boards together and, you know, put it in a lathe or whatever and like carve something out of it. And then you see all the color stripes from the plies. You've seen stuff like that before, and that's cool. I like those. You can make like a skate tool, you know, make like the body for it and then have the different things that you pull out, like the screwdriver and all that. You can make whatever you want. You can make art and all that. So there's lots of companies that do that. I'm sure somebody nearby would accept your broken boards so that they can make stuff out of it. As for trucks and bearings, they can be scrapped you know, they're metal, they're gonna be melted down and reused. So that one's not as big of a deal. The bushings aren't gonna go anywhere though. Bushings and wheels, they're just garbage. There's nothing you can do. I looked into, with skateboard wheels, like they haven't figured out how to break them down yet and then reuse them. And they were saying like, it may be possible, but it costs so much more to try to do that than to just, you know, use new materials. So it will be a long time before skateboard wheels can be reused. So the suggestion of the article that I happened to find, I did some research for this, we're just like, well, try to make them last as long as possible, because, you know, that's really all there is to it. But there are some other brands. You're talking about supporting new technology. I know Street Plant, the brand that Mike V has, they might still be doing this. I saw it on Facebook last year. I assume they're still doing it. They had an eco-friendly line where they were doing special kinds of glue, like an eco-friendly glue. It was all, so you could like throw your board away, or you could like compost it, I don't know, but it wasn't covered in all this nasty resin and stuff that isn't gonna go away. It was all like all biodegradable. I don't know, probably the ink too, because that would kind of defeat the purpose if it wasn't. I don't know. Anyway, that was really cool. And I would support that. I like the brand Street Plant in theory. I just don't have any use for a giant fishtail board, so I haven't ever bought any of those. But yeah, I do think it is something to keep in mind. It is important. It is you know, everyone's responsibility to try to not destroy the earth more than you have to. Yeah, but skateboarding is inherently a pretty destructive thing. You're going out, you're rubbing wax on a ledge to grind it up, which ruins your trucks and the ledge, and they both have to be replaced after a while. But yeah, it is what it is. So just try to minimize your damage if you can. So that's it for this time. If you have questions, go to radratvideo.com and submit it on the homepage form. Keep getting messages saying you don't understand where to go. It's right there on the homepage. I just like it that way because it goes into my email. I can sort them. I can go through them all and pull them out. I don't have to do one every day. I can just, you know, it's very nice for me to do it that way. So I'd appreciate it if you do it that way. You can also submit them through Patreon. You can submit questions as a DM or on my, there's a thread for it if you want to do that too. So that's it for now. Make sure you subscribe for next time, and I'll see you around. Thanks for watching.